Hi, guys. Welcome to A Mind of a Hacker. Still working on my title intro. However, this is The Mind of a Hacker, the show where I teach you to think like me. But on this episode, we're going to go ahead and listen to the XSS Rat, and we're going to hear his story of how he came out of darkness and into professionalism and having ethics like no other. It's it's hard to know what ethics are until you haven't had ethics. So, if you want to see my story, you're going to have to go on his YouTube. It's XSS Rat. Let's get into it.
Hello, amazing hackers. I hope you're doing well today. I have Mr. Beers with me, and we want to talk a little bit about our past with drugs. Now, we want to do that, especially me, because I want to, first of all, warn you guys not to fuck with that shit. And second of all, I want to be open about my past because I hope it can be an inspiration that even though you come from a very dark place, you can grow to whatever you want to be. Thanks a lot for joining me, James. First of all, um, let's be honest. For me, everything is kind of like to a degree drugs because how do you define it, right? Caffeine, nicotine, like even paracetamol, acetylsalicylic acid. Like, what is drugs? Like e- everybody takes it every day, and we put a certain stigma on things, which got me very curious from a young age because I always thought that smoking a joint would get me hooked for life. And like I, I saw my friends do it and they were pretty normal. So at a certain point, I started doing it as well, like only on Saturdays or Fridays. And I just smoked along with them a bit. We giggled, we had some fun, the basic stuff, but I was a problem child to begin with anyway. We used to take Camino motors and we used to weld them onto go-karts, shit like that. We used to make campfires, all the shit you shouldn't do. And the thing is, like, it was a great time at that moment, but then it got into more and more smoking. And to a certain point, I was smoking every day. And I was lucky, lucky to a degree, because I live close to the Netherlands, which has an abundance of cannabis available. It's just a couple of minutes away from me. Now, for me, that cannabis thing, it was a gateway, but it was earlier than that. Cigarettes was a gateway. That was my gateway. They always say cannabis is your gateway, but not for me. I hated booze from the beginning. I don't like alcohol. I still don't. I drink right now, but I drink beer every now and again, or I get completely slammed. Everything in between, I get annoying and grumpy. So that's why I don't really drink. um, but like the thing is, I went over to like a client one day, and like my client had cocaine, and he seemed pretty normal after trying it, and he wanted me to try it as well. I was fixing up his computer, and I was like, why not, right? Because I was looking for something new. The thing is, in the beginning, it was all very interesting. I was exploring everything with my friends, but we kind of quickly grew bored of it. We grew out of we grew our separate ways. And then I went experimenting and looking for more. I went looking for, like, I found that cocaine first. That was really interesting because that was my drug of choice for a long time. It started again like with the weed. It started with occasionally use, but quickly evolved into daily use, and it spiraled out of control real quick, man. Like I lost my money real quick, a lot of it. Eventually, I got caught by my parents because I had like this little envelopes laying around all over my car, and they were cleaning it. So yeah, busted. But like the thing is, it's
Damn.
good because like
Yeah.
they whooped my ass, and I deserved it. Like, what kind of an idiot was I? The thing is, though, it did open up my eye to a degree because I got to a very low point. Now, I didn't learn. Eventually, I started messing with that shit again. I did it at a festival first. I went to get weed at my dealer, but he also had pills. He had ecstasy. The worst shit ever because whenever I took one of those pills, I puked. It was terrible stuff, but it gave me like a new sensation again, new things to explore. But I'm not the kind of guy to take one or two pills a night. I'm one guy to take 10 or 12 pills a night. And for those of you who don't know drugs, that's quite a lot. Like
That's a
especially if
lot. Yeah, you're talking about okay. So ecstasy is MDMA, guys, and MDMA is actually a byproduct of methamphetamines. And what it does is it gives you a euphoric effect. However, ecstasy, the pill itself, is mixed with either cocaine, heroin, or fentanyl. And so you're actually taking MDMA mixed with these drugs, and 10 or 12 pills would that would give you a pretty interesting night.
Yeah, I went around and I hugged the whole tent, the whole tent at the festival until 3 a.m., every single person. And it was interesting to say the least, but not the best experience because I did it again and again. But like I say, I puked like a madman from that shit because it was laced with all kind of stuff. And
Mhm.
like I had a new low at a degree because like my sister went to tell my parents, not directly, but I told her that I would stay with her at that festival and go see bands and shit like that. But instead of that, I was just chilling at my tent, all fucked out of my mind. Um, not going to anything really, not going to see anything. I was even such a madman that every day from the festival I would drive an hour and a half to my dealer to pick up shit to go back to the festival every single day. Like what kind of a fucking idiot was I? But okay, caught again. I didn't learn still and I kept using cocaine. I started using all kinds of hallucinogenic drugs as well, like shrooms in that period. But that never really hooked me in a sense that those kinds of things aren't really addicting. They're more mind opening. I never regret taking that stuff. Shrooms are fucking amazing. And don't take that stuff. I don't condone it, but for me, it was fucking amazing. Um, I took DMT at a point. That's some heavy shit, man. DMT. If you don't know, DMT gets released the moment you die. Basically, your brain floods with DMT. And that's what gives people these visions of light at the end of a tunnel, is what they say. Well, I believe it now, my friend, because when you take enough DMT, you land in a different dimension. You see beings that you communicate with without even talking, and I'm that serious. It feels like you're there. It feels like it doesn't just change your vision, it changes your perception, which is a very odd thing for me. And it doesn't make you freak out and shit like salvia does. It just like it makes you brain that like a plant and hallucinate like hell for like a few minutes. And it's definitely an interesting one. I'll say that.
Oh yeah,
Um,
but see, your brain has natural receptors in it for DMT too, because it's a chemical in your brain, which makes it a little bit more um, odd as a drug, because you have receptors for THC as well in marijuana, right? So you're born with those receptors. So yeah, it's a I don't know. So it's weird.
it
I
makes
think that our brain is programmed to intake things that can be used as medicine. And so if you can intake THC, psilocybin, and DMT naturally, then those things might be a natural medicine for things.
my hypothesis on this is that death is a traumatic experience. You're dying, you're losing consciousness, you're doing it alone. It's scary as fuck. And your brain floods with DMT to kind of soften the blow a little bit and to make it feel like you're sliding into a different dimension, which it brings up questions about perception, which is really interesting. Like, what is perception? What is the human spirit? How do you define these things? Like, there was this famous experiment of a guy that was put on a scale right before he died, and he supposedly lost 7 grams right after dying. But the thing
Yeah, not
is,
just one guy. They did that experiment 15 different times.
the problem with that is that it's been proven false because it's basically gases escaping. And
Yeah.
the thing is, like, for these kind of things, it really makes you wonder, what is life? How do you define it? Do you define global consciousness? How, what? Like, I really felt like unity the moment I took DMT, a big unity with the universe in and of itself. Anyway, might be hallucinating out of my shit there, but besides the point, uh, that's not what I hung on. I kept hanging back on cocaine, and I kept using it again and again up to a point where I bought like 40 grams and used it in like a couple of days. I would put like half a gram lines down, and for those of you who don't know, that's like $25 sniffed in one go. That was I lost my money real quick on that shit, and it got
God
so
damn.
bad, and I'm really not proud of it. It got so bad to a point where I couldn't even pay my parents that small bit of rent that they were asking, like a few $100, and I was super ashamed of that moment. But hitting rock bottom is something that has kind of opened me up as well. Like oh, I shouldn't, I won't recommend this to anybody at all. But I do think a lot of people would do quite good from experiencing their rock bottom at some point, just to experience what it's like and to see what you can fall back on. That way, you will always know what you're climbing out of and what you're fighting for. And that wasn't even my real rock bottom. I was lucky there because at some point, addicts go and steal money as well. I never went and stole. When I hit zero, I hit zero. I stopped. I confessed again, went to Narcotics Anonymous. And if you're suffering, do reach out, my friends. Like, don't suffer alone. Like, it's great to celebrate your sobriety. Um, Even if you don't fully 100% agree with the rules, you can always go and you can see, like, if it's something for you, you know. You never
Oh
know.
yeah.
But
Yeah, dude. When I went to treatment, treatment was the one thing that helped me. And the funny thing is I went to one of the worst treatment facilities in Portland, Oregon. One of the worst. Like they have the lowest turnaround ever. Like they have people come back multiple times before anybody succeeds. And I didn't even pay attention to like what they were doing or what was going on. I paid attention to what they were trying to teach. And I applied those things in my life and it fucking helped so much.
definitely, yeah. Though I don't always agree with their fundamental beliefs, my fundamental belief is that addiction stems from a lack of purpose. And that, like, they did this experiment on Vietnam soldiers who went to the Viet Cong, and they took a lot of bad drugs and a lot of bad shit to stay motivated, to stay in the game. And when they returned home to their families, a lot of them quit that stuff because they found their purpose again. They got back to where they belong. And that is like, it proves something for me. And it proved that for me as well. Like, the thing is, the moment I took up that program, I took up sponsorship of another person as well after a while. It gave me purpose because I was always trying to help with the organization as well. And it taught me a lot about myself, how to organize things. It definitely helped. But like, I just hope that you guys can see that at that moment you might be very, very low, but the sun is always shining behind the clouds. I'm not saying I made it, but I made it this far, and let's see where we can go, right?
Hell yeah, man. I'm proud of you too. It's really hard to pull yourself out of things like that, even with help, you know. And I mean, when you look at it nowadays, all the street drugs right now have so much fentanyl in them that even addicts are telling people don't do drugs because they'll kill you. The only reason I'm doing this is because I'm addicted. Like it's it's insane, dude. The deaths of the people that have happened because they're putting drugs inside of the illegal drugs. I don't know. Um,
Yeah,
but
and like
it it's just it's insane.
not even the direct overdoses anymore. It's also people getting in debt, people fucking up their families, people fucking up their lives.
Oh
And
yeah.
like it can always be laced with something. If it's not with fentanyl, it might your cocaine is always laced with something. It's never pure. Most people don't like pure cocaine. Not even cocaine heads. They don't like pure cocaine often because it's a different feeling than what we're used to. Often it's
The
mixed with lidocaine. Sorry.
lidocaine, yeah, or baby powder.
That's the worst. But the thing is,
It's the worst.
lidocaine is lidocaine is often used because if you rub it on your gums, it feels numb as well, like real cocaine would. That's why they often use that. Whereas baby
Yeah.
powder wouldn't. And you can also taste the difference. But of course, if you're on the street, the thing is, a lot of people ask for a fiver or a tenner, which is like $5 worth of drugs. And if you know anything about cocaine, that's like, that's a tenth of a gram, literally.
Yeah.
A tenth of a
Yeah.
gram to like even half that for $5, and like I'm lucky that I never went to stuff like heroin. Now, I did try some things in a sense that my doctor prescribed me some pain medication, very strong stuff. I
That's
don't
how a
like to
lot of
take
people
it.
get addicted to heroin, dude. I'm really glad that you don't like to take it because, okay, so here in the US, we have a problem with doctors prescribing pain drugs, right? And I don't know if it's the same way where you are, but whatever. It might be.
It's
But they
the thing
prescribe
is,
somebody yeah, go ahead.
oh, sorry. I just wanted to say I need it sometimes. Sometimes it's so bad that I just have to take it. I understand. And they're kind of borrowing it from people who really need it as well. People who are far worse off than me, people who are in really bad pain conditions, but they can't get proper pain medication because they're not believed properly. Like the fibromyalgia thingy that I have is not in a bad state at all. If I compare it to some other people and I see them, I'm lucky that I have a few pains here and there. If I see them, they're almost crippled by that shit, man. And like
Yeah.
CBD helps, THC helps, wild lettuce helps, kratom helps, but the real effective thing is opioids. Like that really helps. And they say that psychotherapy is really effective and watching your food and diet and exercise really is. It is all effective, but let's be honest, the quick fix is to take a pill. Like that's the easy fix. And at a certain point, they stop prescribing you or they say you have to cut down. And that's where you will be like, but I want more. And you will ask your weed guy, hey, do you also have some pills? And he'll be like, no, but I have some black heroin or some brown
Yeah.
heroin. Like,
Yeah.
okay, that's usually how they get you. And the thing is, if you ask them, they'll be like, want to try, and that's how they hook you.
And then to get off of heroin, you have to take a lifetime dose of methadone, which costs twice as much as street heroin, and you get addicted to twice as quick.
Yep, and you won't feel any of the benefits from it.
Nope. It'll be just to stay alive. Fucking crazy, man. Because methadone is actually a barbiturate, whereas heroin is an opiate.
Yep,
Withdrawal from barbiturates can kill you.
yeah, and like withdrawal from opiates is horrible, and it
It
can kill you
sucks
in
asshole.
extreme cases. But like in most cases, it's just fucking get through it. Like what
Yeah.
if you are withdrawing from opioids, look into kratom. Kratom is like a natural semi-opioid which can help you relieve the symptoms of what you're having. And also wild lettuce. Wild lettuce can help a lot.
Wow,
And of
lettuce is good.
course,
Yeah.
like make some lemon, get some lemon zest and get some orange zest and bake it in the oven. And then until it's completely dry, crush it, make some tea out of that shit. That's fucking wonders for you, man. But that's just like the kratom that really helped me in a lot of extreme, like every time I have to get off of the pain meds because I take them in bursts and only when I really need them. And if I have to get off of them, I do take kratom to alleviate the effects quite a lot. It almost doesn't affect me anymore, but of course everybody's different and you have to find your right dose because kratom in a low dose, it's going to energize you, and in a high dose, it's going to put you in a state of complete demobilization. And my doctor, I like the guy, but that complete fuck gave me diazepam to get off of the opioids. Like that's a benzo. If you don't know
Yeah, that's not good for you either.
that's Valium. Jesus Christ. Like I love the guy, but some people don't know what to do with that shit, you know. They don't really know addiction that well. And I know that it does help to a degree, but getting off of Valium can be even worse. I it can
That's
give you
true.
severe anxiety attacks. Like getting off of the
Yeah.
opioids makes you depressed, it makes you cramped up, it makes you sick, but it never gives me anxiety. Like, but getting off the
No,
Valium
no,
did.
and even those parts on the opioids weren't bad for me. When I withdrawed from opioids, I told my brain every day that I was sorry that I messed up its chemical structure and I understand it's trying to fix itself. And I kind of
Yes,
just dealt with it that way, apologizing to my body for what I did to it and understanding that it's getting healthier and I just have to go through this.
definitely. And that's something that you have to understand as well if you're watching. Every time you do one of these drugs, it's like you're carving a chemical pathway into your brain, and it can carve deeper and deeper and deeper every time you use it. And the thing is, if you want to fill it, you need to use more, but the more you use, the deeper you're going to carve it. And that's
That's
the
true.
thing with everything. Like
Yep,
if you are able to use it responsibly, that's great for you. But a lot of people are also not, and you have to be able to admit that to yourself before you lose all your savings to that shit, man. Do you really
yeah.
want to buy your dealer a new car? Is he really that kind to you, or is he slumback?
And I mean, really, before you start thinking about street drugs or anything like that, go to a psychotherapist, man. Go to a therapist and see what they say. Say, hey, dude, I'm thinking about this because of this. And, I just don't know what's going on in my brain. And I think that, I might need something like this. And they'll help you. They'll say, well, either you do or you don't. And then they can help find a medical way of
Yep.
giving you what you want instead of you going and doing things that you don't know what's in them.
And the thing is, they can do it in a very controlled setting where they literally give you a certain amount every single day that you have to get if it has to be like that. And that can really help you get off of certain things. Like, for example, if you're kicking off of certain things, they can prescribe that 3 times per day. You can pick up one pill, for example, and then suddenly they do it two times and then one time. And the thing is, as well, that I was self-medicating to a degree because I have ADHD or ADD, one of the two, and cocaine works wonders on that shit for me because I was able to focus, like the MDMA as well, amphetamine, stimulants, you know.
All of that's going to come up in my story, man. Yeah.
It's
Oh
that
yeah.
kind of, it really helps you to focus quite a lot if you're suffering from that. But you, like you say, your doctor can provide for that in a medical setting as well. There are medically researched stimulants. And I know that medicine isn't advanced as far as we might like, but it is much further than most people give it credit for. And especially psychotherapy. Like even cognitive behavior therapy can do a lot for you.
And ultimately, you have to be the ethical one with your medication. Okay, the doctor can prescribe you 30 Adderall. If you take 5 Adderall a day, you're still abusing the medication, getting tweaked out every day. You know what I mean? You need to be ethical about your choice that it's medication and not a drug.
Yeah, like you said, you can still be tweaked out on that shit. Like even if it's medicine to you to a degree, if you take too much of it, you're still tweaked out. It's simple as
Yeah,
like
you're
it's
still you're still fucking yourself over, man. And then what's going to happen, 2 3 months later when the doctor's prescribing you 30 pills of the same milligram and it doesn't work anymore and you burnt all the receptors out in your brain and now you have no dopamine for the next 2 years.
yep, that's fun.
Yay!
Or you burned a hole through your nose way. That can also
Oh
happen.
shit.
Like I know people that were like constantly clogged up in their nose because of that abuse, you know? Like they couldn't get their nose unclogged anymore to a degree, which is like fucked up. But yeah, like that's kind of my story. At a certain point, I did climb out of it. I also attribute it to a sense of non-belonging to a degree because I was very Morpheus. Like if I was with somebody, I would adapt to their personality, but I wouldn't have personality of my own. I wouldn't really know who I was. And like the drugs helped define me to a degree, which was a very bad place to be in. I would be researching that stuff. I would be looking into it. I would be looking up everything I could find. And like that shit really didn't help me. It helped me hyper focus on the stuff that I shouldn't be focusing on and completely forget about everything else that was very important in my life. So I hope that some people can learn from my mistakes and don't make the same that I did. And I hope that you guys found this useful. I'm gonna